Hey everybody, welcome back to another action-packed, exciting episode of Scotty's Record Shop. It's been a little while, not like 8 or 9 years, but I did take a good chunk of last week off. There was a lot going on. It just was what it was, you know what I mean? Sometimes life takes priority. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Unfortunately, during that time that I was gone, we lost two very, very influential people. This video is not about that, but I definitely want to mention since at this moment in time it is time appropriate, we lost Sylvester Stewart, aka Sly Stone, leader of Sly and the Family Stone, and of course we lost Brian Wilson a day or so later. Magnificent, brilliant man behind the Beach Boys, and so they are gone. Tons of videos on YouTube paying tribute to those guys. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna make videos. Just they were very influential to me. Loved Sly and the Stones, Sly and the Family Stone, and I love the Beach Boys. But so many other people have made videos. It's no need for me to pile on to that, really, other than just saying they're going to be very, very sorely missed. But anyway, today's subject: albums you should know about, episode number 5. An interesting album that I did not discover when it first came out in 1977. I actually discovered it around 1979 or so, give or take. And I am talking about Cheap Trick's magnificent album, In Color. Cheap Trick, I'll give a little brief history of Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick started in 1973, depending on the sources, 1973, 1974, give or take. They evolved out of a band called Fuse that put out an album in 1970, and if I reach down here and I can grab this, there it is. This is the album Fuse. Now, Tom Peterson and Rick Nelson were on this album, and it's kind of funny looking at them because you've got Rick Nelson, who always has the goofy Cheap Trick hat on and has got his goofy look on his face. This is when they were, if you want to call them, normal. I'll tell you, Rick Nelson has nothing good to say about this album. This came out 1970 on Epic, and it was reissued. I think I read somewhere that it was reissued in the early 2000s, maybe on CD. Like I said, Rick Nelson really, really crapped on this album. Horrible album. Don't listen to it. Don't waste your time. I can tell you that it's not the greatest album in the world. But there were a couple of decent songs on here. I don't know if it's streamed or not, but it's kind of interesting to hear the bass player and the guitar player of what would become Cheap Trick on here. As a matter of fact, not on this album, but later on, in as this band continued through about 1973, they went through member changes, and they got a new drummer, a guy named Bonnie Carlos, and he's not on this record. So you have 3 of the 4 members of Cheap Trick here before Cheap Trick even became Cheap Trick. Again, not on this album, only 2 members. But this is especially if you're a diehard Cheap Trick fan, this is a really interesting listen. So, again, I didn't check to see if it was streaming. Of course, they get Robin Zander. After Cheap Trick was formed, there was an initial singer. It didn't work out. There are actually some tapes out there. Some bootlegs on YouTube of the original singer for Cheap Trick. I mean, the guy wasn't bad, but it wasn't Cheap Trick. There was something missing, and that something that was missing was Robin Zander, for sure. That foursome gelled and made something really special. Unfortunately, the world didn't get it. 1976, their first album. Again, I'm not going to go through all the Cheap Trick albums, but I just wanted to give a basic overview of what this band was. 1976, they are signed to Epic Records. I found this album about the same time that I discovered In Color, and that was right around the time of when a lot of people... I discovered Cheap Trick before Cheap Trick Live at Budokan. I'll get to that in a minute, but once Budokan came out, I was like, okay, what else did these guys put out? So that's when I discovered In Color, and this one. This one took a little bit of getting used to because this is a very punky hard-edged album. It's a great album, but Cheap Trick would later return to kind of this formula at times in the 90s and 2000s and stuff. But this is a harder-edged, less polished production. And you know what? It went nowhere. I'm sure that this did get played in the Midwest, probably. As a matter of fact, I know it did on some radio stations in the Midwest. But where I am, out on the West Coast, out there where those guys are, down south, blech, nothing. Of course, we're going to get to In Living Color, but after that, this was the album I discovered. Cheap Trick, Heaven Tonight. I absolutely adore this album. This was the album that I believe they were touring on when they made Live at Budokan. This album, how I discovered it, they were actually playing Surrender on the radio, somewhat on rock-oriented radio. They were playing Surrender, and I dug that song. And I was laying in bed. This happened more than once, and I think I've mentioned this in another video or two, and I'm probably going to mention it again in the course of this channel's career. I was like 14 or whatever when this came out, laying in bed, on a Saturday morning. I didn't have to get up for school. I'm sleeping in, and all of a sudden I'm laying there snoring, and this thing gets tossed onto me on my chest. Wakes me up. I look it up. Okay. It was my brother. My brother would do that once in a while. I never asked any questions on where he got these albums. Maybe it better not to. My brother, maybe he had a little 5-finger discount. I don't even know if people know what that means, but he tended to do a little bit of 5-finger discount shopping once in a while, and I got some albums that way. But he thought I would really dig this, so he just gave it to me, and I listened to it, and it's just freaking great. And then, of course, right after that, we get this. This is I have several pressings of this. This is a Japanese pressing of Live at Budokan, an original pressing. No different song-wise or anything. It actually has the Japanese kind of EQ, which someday maybe we'll talk about if you don't know about how Japanese records were kind of EQ'd. Wonderful sounding. I think this still has a lot of power to it. This is a great album. The album that most people remember Cheap Trick by. Now let's get to the subject at hand. 10 minutes into the video, guys. Come on. The album we are going to discuss, released in September of 1977 on Epic. In Color. Made it up to 73 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, or Top 200 album charts. In Japan, it made it up to number 30. This was a very popular album in Japan. They hit in Japan, obviously, before they hit in America. I think most people know that. The studio version of I Want You to Want Me and Clock Strikes 10 were both singles in Japan, and they both did really, really good. And there was kind of some kind of Cheap Trick mania, and that is heard on the Live at Budokan. Interesting fact about Live at Budokan, it wasn't recorded at Budokan. The Budokan tapes weren't that good. They weren't recorded that good. And there are, like a lot of 70s and even 80s live stuff, there's a lot of overdubs. There had to be some things that were fixed. The snare drum was one thing that had to be repaired. Even on that recording. Sounds great. No disrespect to Live at Budokan. Killer. Really, really, really aggressive, angry kind of album. This is this made it up to, it made it into the Rolling Stones top 500 album of all time. 5 of the songs from this were on the original Cheap Trick Live at Budokan. Now in the 90s, I think it was 98, Cheap Trick issued a double CD where it was the Cheap Trick Live at Budokan full concert. And from my memory, I think they put Down on that. They were playing that live as well. I mean, over half this album was part of their live set. So if you have the live versions of these, and they're so pumped up, they're so raw and aggressive and awesome. Why would you want this? This has a different feel. Now there's some aggressiveness to this album. This album, there was a, and I can't remember the name of the article, but it was critiquing or listing like the top 50 power pop, because that's what this is. I hate labels, but this is a power pop album. It was listed at like number 3 of all of the power pop albums that were ever released. You know, you're talking Big Star, the Raspberries, Badfinger. You know, you get into the 80s and 90s, all kinds of other types of power pop. This was listed as one of the greatest ones of all time. Now, why should you get this? Because there's more than 5 good songs on this album. There is not a bad song on this album. Not as raw as the first album. There's piano on this record. I Want You to Want Me is more laid back. It was released here in America and it didn't do anything initially. A studio version. I have that 45. I like the version of I Want You to Want Me on here. I do prefer the live version because it pumps more. But there's harmony guitar on this that you don't get on the live album. There's piano. It may not be. It's just a very melodic pop rock album. Fantastic. The song Downed. If you've never heard that song, a little depressing, yeah, but boy, what a killer song. This is just a drop dead classic 70s. I guess you have to call it, well, you don't have to call it, but the power pop, you know, somewhat hard rock, sort of pop rock album. Fantastic. Of course, the cover's got a great sense of humor. You get in color, and then you flip it over, and I'm going to flip it literally over, black and white. You get, and in black and white. Speaking of album covers, I'll wrap this up by letting you know a good friend of mine walked in. This was 1977. Again, nobody had heard of this album here in America. I mean, it wasn't really getting played on American radio, at least in our area. A friend of mine walked into a record store, 1977 up here in Maine, and saw this just sitting in the bin. Never heard of Cheap Trick. He looked at it, he picked it up, he went, huh, wow. Then he, you know, upside down, but then he looked at this side and went, this is crazy. This is real. They look really cool. And he was really into punk and stuff at the time. He bought it. Sound unheard. Now, you know, instead of sight unseen, sound unheard. Never heard of Cheap Trick. Just the cover lured him in. Absolutely loved it. And was a Cheap Trick fan from then on. Yes, I'm mentioning you, Rock and Raj. If you're watching this video, hopefully you will. So anyway, an album you should know about for sure. Cheap Trick in color. Okay? Alrighty. Again, I want to thank you all. By the way, I didn't do this at the beginning of the video. Shame on me. I'd like to welcome all of you new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. And as always, thank you to all of you who watch these videos. Now, the next step for you guys who are watching this, like, subscribe, and share. And comment, too. Let me know what you think about this album. What's your favorite Cheap Trick album? You know, a lot of people are going to say Live at Budokan. You know, maybe, what was it? Lap of Luxury, the album that came out in 88 with The Flame. A lot of newer fans dug that album. I get that. I actually am a Cheap Trick fan. I have everything up to about 1990. About Busted, I think was the last album I got, was Busted. And I'll be honest with you, even though they've kind of had some resurgences, I was so traumatized by some of the crap they pulled in the 80s, honestly, that I have not really heard much of their 90s and 2000 catalog. And guilty as charged. I've got to go back and listen to some of that stuff, because I've heard some of it is really, really, really good. But let me know what you think, okay, guys? Again, thank you for watching, and until next time, everybody, peace and love.